sometimes things build up.
Think about all that Diddy has done for the culture.
They asked me about Puff, and I answered it as honestly as I knew how to answer.
Sean Diddy Combs is now confronting even more serious allegations in a groundbreaking lawsuit.
This is the type of indictment you would expect from someone in the mafia.
Heavy usage of various illegal drugs, alcohol, sexual paraphernalia.
I don't know that I could keep him off the stand. He is very eager.
Over the past year, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been embroiled in a growing storm of allegations, including sex trafficking, coercion, and abuse, as new evidence and insider testimonies continue to emerge. His previously untarnished reputation is now under intense scrutiny, threatening to dismantle his legacy and alter his position in the music industry. Diddy's troubles began in late 2023 when his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, better known as Cassie, filed a lawsuit accusing him of coercive and abusive behavior throughout their relationship. Cassie's claims were just the beginning, sparking a wave of legal actions and investigations that have since revealed a disturbing array of accusations against the founder of Bad Boy Records.
A lawsuit filed against Sean Diddy Combs accuses the music performer and executive of rape, physical abuse, and sex trafficking. The singer Cassie says the incidents occurred throughout her 10-year relationship with Combs. Her suit was filed under a law that allows alleged sexual offense victims to file past the statute of limitations. Cassie says she wanted to speak out before that law expires next week. Mr. Combs has denied all the allegations. For more, let's bring in entertainment attorney Dante Mills. So Dante, thanks for being with us. Cassie has signed with that label when she was just 19 and Sean Combs was 37. What's alleged to have happened after that?
Thank you for having me, Catherine. So in this lawsuit, I just wanted to be clear, this is a civil lawsuit. This is not a criminal lawsuit. There's no chance here as we stand for Sean Combs to go to jail. It's a civil lawsuit about money. And the claim is that during their relationship, he was physically abusive, that he required or demanded that she perform certain sexual acts with other people while he was there, and that he, in fact, raped her shortly before she left him. She said she did not want to have sexual relations with him, and he forced himself on her. That's the basis of this lawsuit.
The most prominent of these allegations were charges of sex trafficking, which resulted in federal raids on Diddy's properties in Los Angeles and Miami.
Well, he says that he's innocent, right? And he's calling the raids excessive and also a witch hunt. His attorney releasing a statement to the media and Court TV that in part reads this. Yesterday, there was a gross overuse of military-level force as search warrants were executed at Mr. Combs' residences. There is no excuse for the excessive show of force and hostility exhibited by authorities or the way his children and employees were treated. Mr. Combs was never detained, but spoke to and cooperated with authorities. Despite media speculation, neither Mr. Combs nor any of his family members have been arrested, nor has their ability to travel been restricted in any way. News crews in Los Angeles caught Diddy's sons on camera being cuffed for a short time. They were not arrested, not taken into custody, and this is still unfolding.
There has been a lot of speculation about his private jet, whether or not it fled the country, but according to the attorney, he wouldn't be fleeing, go anywhere he wants to. What do we know about where he is?
The fallout from these allegations has been rapid and intense. In a significant February 2024 episode of his Council Culture podcast, Nick Cannon discussed the situation, sharing his personal connection with Diddy and expressing his mixed emotions.
Think about all that Diddy has done for the culture.
They asked me about Puff, and I answered it as honestly as I knew how to answer it. I know these people, they're not just public figures to me.
Nick Cannon's comments about Diddy resurfacing in the wake of the music mogul's federal home raids.
What about Puff? I don't know how to feel about that.
Everybody has things that we have to deal with, and through love and understanding, we'll get through it.
The Masked Singer host getting through it on his Council Culture podcast in February, addressing what he said earlier in December on Way Up with Angela Yee.
Cassie, straight up.
In the aftermath of Diddy's sexual assault allegations from his ex, Cassie, Diddy denies the claims, but still, they ultimately settled. It's worth noting both appearances were recorded before Diddy's home raids.
I saw you leave like a, nice comment for Cassie.
Yeah.
With everything that's been happening with Diddy.
And there's a lot of things that we probably don't know the details on, but we all on the outside looking in.
I'm praying for Cassie, trying to find the high frequency. In knowing the story, knowing the right thing to talk about, I was like, this is someone who was hurt, who was victimized.
Cannon's remarks underscored a wider public sentiment, an uneasy blend of disbelief and concern, regarding the accusations against a figure who had long been revered in the music industry.
And I was going through my stuff, someone that called, checked on me, stood by me, stood up for me, when no one else would protect me.
We just like the audience, we sitting back, you know, praying and hoping for the best, but then at the same time, when you know individuals, it's like a family member. I don't agree with the behavior, but I care for the person.
So I have to almost do this dance about when it comes up, because just as much as I know Diddy, I know Cassie.
In November, Cassie's lawsuit allegations were only the start of legal troubles for Diddy.
As we watch it, we're watching it in real time, and we don't know how to feel because, one, we don't know the truth. We don't know everything. When it's revealed, it'll be revealed. And then when we are presented whatever the actual truth is, it's like, all right, well, how do we feel about what we've signed on for to be a part of that person's movement?
Federal prosecutors have presented a troubling portrayal of Diddy's actions, alleging that he leveraged his wealth and influence to organize and take part in freak-offs, sex parties involving commercial sex workers, drugs, and recorded performances. These accusations are supported by evidence from a 2016 incident, in which surveillance footage captured Diddy violently confronting Cassie at a Los Angeles hotel.
So John, Cassie filed her lawsuit in November. The feds raided Diddy's home in March. Now we see this awful video, which is more than 8 years old. And yet, Diddy has still not been charged with anything. I would think there would be grounds for his arrest in that video. Why hasn't he been charged with anything?
Well, the video is out of the statute of limitations. The statute of limitations in California for a simple assault is a year. For domestic violence assault, it was 3 years. They've moved that up to 5 years. But this is out of range for a state charge in California. However, let's get back to that federal investigation. What HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, is doing, as Elizabeth framed it, is they are building a racketeering case, a RICO case based on human trafficking and allegations startlingly similar that track those that have been made in Cassie Ventura's lawsuit and in the lawsuit by another individual who worked for Combs, that tell these stories of people being brought in the presence of weapons and drugs and so on. It's very much like what they did in the R. Kelly case, which got him 30 years in prison. So this charge, even though it's state crime is out of the statute of limitations, would be fair game in that federal case.
Despite his defense team's attempts to have the charges dismissed, the federal government's relentless pursuit has uncovered even more incriminating evidence. A recent court filing revealed that an investigator from the Bureau of Prisons allegedly violated attorney-client privilege by photographing and confiscating notes from Diddy's jail cell. These notes are said to contain sensitive information about defense strategies and witness testimonies.
Now, in the latest court filing from Monday, the defense claims that the Bureau of Prisons investigator, referred to as Investigator 1, copied notes that Combs had written down in his cell, possibly information that was privileged. Now, back in October, there was a raid by federal investigators at the MDC. According to reports, the MDC is notorious for drugs, weapons, and violence. Officials were reportedly looking for any sort of contraband the inmates might have. Now, Combs was questioned and photographs were taken of items in his cell. Now, according to a file from federal prosecutors, the sweep was pre-planned and coordinated to ensure the safety and security of the staff and inmates at the MDC, and was part of a larger safety and security initiative and not in response to any particular threat or intelligence. The MDC sweep planned well in advance of the defendant's arrest and not conducted to target any particular inmate, included the jail and the warehouse where MDC food and other property are stored. During the MDC sweep, multiple housing units were searched, including the defendant's unit.
Diddy's defense team has strongly opposed these actions, accusing the prosecution of misconduct and demanding an evidentiary hearing to address the alleged violations. They contend that the seizure of privileged notes was a purposeful act by the investigator to assist the prosecution, thus violating Diddy's constitutional rights. Despite these assertions, a federal judge has largely supported the prosecution, denying Diddy bail on multiple occasions and allowing the contested evidence to remain admissible.
But prosecutors had him give them to the filter team first for review. Now, filter teams, also known as taint teams, are pretty controversial in the legal system. The defense might have important or pertinent information that needs to be turned over to the prosecution under the rules of discovery. But that information might also be protected by attorney-client privilege. The filter team serves kind of as a middleman. It's a group of prosecutors not involved in the case who sift through the evidence to pick out anything that shouldn't be shared with the prosecuting attorneys and remove or redact that from the discovery material. The prosecution wrote that accusing the Bureau of Prisons investigator of working on behalf of the prosecutors is meritless. The mere fact that a prison official turns over material seized from a detainee's cell to prosecutors after the fact with no prior coordination regarding the seizure does not show that he acted at their behest. In fact, courts have repeatedly held that searches initiated by prison officials, even where those prison officials later turned over evidence seized from those searches to prosecutors, and such evidence was helpful to a prosecution against a defendant, do not implement the Fourth Amendment.
As the trial date nears, the stakes for Diddy have reached unprecedented heights. The prosecution is expected to present a strong case, relying on the extensive evidence gathered through raids, witness testimonies, and the controversial notes seized from his cell. With the weight of this evidence against him, it seems increasingly unlikely that Diddy will win the case, and many people have already accepted the majority of the allegations against him as fact.
Speaking of, in particular, Netflix docuseries that you've been working on, Diddy Do It.
Right.
You've been saying for years that you feel you knew Diddy's character.
Right.
Yet you said you weren't a part of that lifestyle, you weren't going to the parties. So what makes you so absolutely sure that these kinds of allegations that we've seen against him are true?
Well, I'm surprised by the allegations, as surprised as everyone else is. Like, I didn't make the allegations. I didn't tell people to say these things. It comes out, I see it in the news like everyone else. But I did feel uncomfortable with the way he would present the idea of going to these projects.
To come party with me.
Yeah. And then that swayed me away from it. Just that alone.
So you didn't realize
as much stuff was coming. Like, when I seen today, it was allegations of 3 men that said he drugged them, and it's a long time, to be honest with you. Like, when people don't remember being violated for 20 years, it makes me feel a little hard.
What are your thoughts on the allegations against Jay-Z?
That was interesting. When I was saying things not knowing exactly what I was saying, but I was going, where's Jay at? He's mad quiet. Like while the Puffy thing was going on. But it's obvious now that his team was being made aware that he was in those allegations also. So I hope it works out, because with his family, the things that go on internally is that those accusations are...
Adding to Diddy's growing legal troubles is a bombshell lawsuit filed by his former executive assistant, Philip Pines. Pines claims that between 2019 and 2021, he was coerced into organizing drug-fueled parties and performing degrading acts to prove his loyalty.
Sean Diddy Combs is facing more explosive allegations in a bombshell lawsuit. This one filed by his reportedly former executive assistant, who claims he was coerced into setting up drug-fueled parties and even performing degrading acts to prove his loyalty to the music mogul. We're going to break down these latest shocking details of alleged sexual coercion, abuse, and manipulation, and how this adds to the mounting legal troubles for Sean Diddy Combs. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, it is another day, and it is another Diddy lawsuit. Yep, this time from a man who says he was the former executive assistant of the disgraced rapper and music producer, and he's accusing Diddy of essentially sexual coercion, abuse, battery, sex trafficking, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And it all stems, he says, from what happened at these lavish drug-fueled nights called Wild King Nights.
Pines alleges that his responsibilities also included cleaning up the aftermath, which involved removing drugs, condoms, sex toys, and bodily fluids, as well as wiping Diddy's personal devices of any compromising videos. Pines claims he was forced to watch these videos before deleting them, further intensifying the trauma he endured.
A part of this lawsuit alleges that Pines had to prove his loyalty to Sean Combs, who was dubbed the King, by performing sex acts for him, hence the name Wild King Nights. The suit even reportedly says that Pines was treated, quote, like an animal playing fetch in order to prove his loyalty. And by the way, that is just one of the many disturbing details in this lawsuit. So to help me break it down, I want to bring on friend of the show, defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, who has been our go-to as we've been covering the Sean Combs saga. Mauricio, so good to see you. Thanks so much. Happy holidays. Before we get into the
as well.
Yeah, thank you. Before we get into the specifics here, you know, I feel like we're almost becoming numb to the lawsuit after the lawsuit after the lawsuit. And do all of the allegations against Combs so far that we've seen make the claims here, these new claims, do you think it makes it more or less true? In other words, does the fact that a lawsuit comes out in late 2024, as opposed to maybe at the beginning of the year or right after he was arrested, but, you know, on the heels of all the allegations so far, how should we all be thinking about yet another lawsuit against Sean Combs?
The allegations closely mirror those made by prosecutors, who have charged Diddy with sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation for the purpose of prostitution. The prosecutor's case, which covers alleged criminal activities from 2008 to 2024, details similar accounts of drug-fueled parties and sexual exploitation. Pine's lawsuit is particularly noteworthy, as it offers a first-hand account from someone within Diddy's inner circle, potentially bolstering the prosecution's case.
Especially regarding the allegations of scrubbing his cell phone and other devices for evidence, things of that nature that when you read it, it really, you know, it goes hand in hand with the indictment.
I want to get into that, especially the time frame, because let's keep this in mind. Prosecutors have alleged criminal conduct from 2008 to 2024. This would be right in that time frame. So let's everybody keep that in mind. We'll talk more about it, but I have to get into a little bit more of these allegations, starting with what Pine says he was in charge of doing for these parties. What was his job? So one of the things Pines alleges here is that he was responsible for setting up these gatherings, which reportedly involved heavy usage of various illegal drugs and alcohol and sexual paraphernalia. And sometimes it would take place inside of Diddy's bedroom. He says that Diddy instructed him to prepare spaces with these specific items. Quote, plaintiff was instructed by Sean Combs on multiple occasions to ensure his personal bedroom and or various hotel rooms were set up with red lights, ice buckets, alcohol, marijuana joints, honey packs for male libido, baby oil, Astroglide, towels, illegal drugs, and I'm sorry to say this, power banger sex machine.
Defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, a frequent commentator on the Diddy case, stresses the significance of Pine's testimony. He points out that if Pine's allegations are true, they present a serious problem for Diddy, as they come from a former employee rather than an anonymous accuser. Padilla believes the prosecutors are likely to call Pines as a witness, given how his claims align with the charges outlined in their indictment. Clip 14. One of the central issues in this case is whether Pines can substantiate his allegations. His testimony, supported by records such as payments, flight logs, and surveillance footage, will be crucial. Padilla notes that despite Diddy's past legal issues, there may be evidence left behind due to potentially careless attempts at covering up the activities.
I would figure that the feds already talked to him, just because I know from my experience dealing with them how all-encompassing their investigations are. And if he really was his executive assistant from the time frame that they allege in the lawsuit, I can't see a scenario where they wouldn't. I mean, they investigate regular cases to the point that that I'm shocked when I see it as a criminal defense attorney with regular people. When you're talking about a high-profile celebrity case like this, I can't fathom that no one spoke to this individual prior to this. So I would think that they did speak to him, and I can't imagine that he's not a witness, because the way that they work is they want everybody that can corroborate their theory of the case to be on their witness list, or to be somebody that they could call. And I can't think that if he actually was his assistant for this time frame, he would be an excellent witness for them.
See, the problem is we don't know who the witnesses are in that criminal case yet. I don't know when we're going to know, maybe closer to trial, but you have to imagine that their case is built on more than just the testimony of one alleged victim, right? Victim one in the indictment. It has to be more.
Additionally, the lawsuit states that Pines felt forced to document these events as a means of self-protection against possible threats from Diddy. This foresight could provide further evidence to support his claims. While Diddy continues to assert his innocence, claiming he has never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone, the growing number of lawsuits and consistent allegations pose a significant challenge to his defense. That's all for now. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. For more updates, hit the bell icon.